In the summer of 1914, Europe looked powerful, modern, and dangerously divided. On one side stood France, Britain, and Russia. On the other, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Their alliances were meant to prevent war. Instead, they created a trap. If one great power moved, the others could be pulled in with it. The spark came on June 28th in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and delivered a harsh ultimatum. Serbia accepted most of its demands, but not all. On July 28th, Austria-Hungary declared war. Then the alliance system began to move. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany backed Austria-Hungary and declared war on Russia, then on France. To avoid a long war on two fronts, Germany activated the Schlieffen Plan, a rapid attack through neutral Belgium designed to defeat France before Russia could fully mobilize. But the invasion of Belgium brought Britain into the war. Millions of men marched toward the front. Many believed they would be home by Christmas. They were wrong. German armies swept through Belgium and northern France, approaching Paris. But in September, French and British forces stopped them at the First Battle of the Marne. Both sides tried to outflank each other, racing north until their lines reached the sea. Then they dug in. A continuous belt of trenches stretched from the North Sea to Switzerland. Barbed wire, artillery, and machine guns turned open ground into a killing zone. The war of movement was over. The war of attrition had begun. In the east, Germany crushed a Russian army at Tannenberg. Austria-Hungary, however, suffered disastrous defeats against both Russia and Serbia. The Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers, spreading the conflict into the Caucasus and the Middle East. The fighting reached Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. This was no longer a European war. It was a world war. And by the end of 1914, roughly 1 million soldiers were already dead. In 1915, both sides searched for a way to break the deadlock and found new ways to destroy each other. At Ypres, German troops released chlorine gas across the battlefield. The green cloud opened a gap in the Allied line and introduced chemical warfare on a terrifying scale. Gas masks soon appeared, but poison gas became another weapon soldiers had to fear. At sea, Germany used submarines to challenge Britain's naval blockade. In May, a German U-boat sank the passenger liner Lusitania. Nearly 1,200 people died, including more than 100 Americans. The attack outraged the United States, though America remained neutral for the moment. The Allies also tried to knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war. Their campaign at Gallipoli began with naval attacks and continued with landings by British, French, Australian, and New Zealand troops. But the defenders held the high ground. After months of disease, stalemate, and heavy losses, the Allies withdrew. Meanwhile, Italy abandoned its old alliance and entered the war against Austria-Hungary. Along the Isonzo River, Italian and Austro-Hungarian forces launched repeated attacks across mountains and cliffs, gaining little and losing tens of thousands. On the Eastern Front, German and Austro-Hungarian armies broke through Russian lines and pushed them hundreds of miles east. Russia lost territory, weapons, and enormous numbers of men. But it did not collapse. Serbia was less fortunate. Attacked by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Bulgaria, the Serbian army was forced into a brutal retreat through the Albanian mountains. By now, Every front told the same story. Enormous sacrifice. Almost no decisive result. In 1916, the war became a contest of endurance. Germany attacked the French fortress city of Verdun. The goal was not simply to capture ground, but to force France into a battle it could not abandon and make the French army bleed itself dry. For 10 months, the guns barely stopped. France held Verdun, but the battlefield consumed hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides. "They shall not pass" became a symbol of French resistance. To relieve the pressure, Britain and France attacked along the Somme. Before the assault, Allied artillery bombarded German positions for a week. Commanders believed almost nothing could survive. But the German shelters were deep. When British soldiers advanced on July 1st, machine guns were waiting. Britain suffered about 57,000 casualties in a single day. The worst day in the history of the British Army. The battle continued for months. Tanks appeared for the first time, but they were few, slow, and unreliable. By the end, the Allies had advanced only a few miles. Total casualties on both sides exceeded 1 million. In the east, Russian General Alexei Brusilov launched one of the war's most successful offensives. His troops shattered Austro-Hungarian lines and captured vast numbers of prisoners. But Russia also paid heavily, and neither empire fully recovered. At sea, the British and German fleets met at Jutland. Britain lost more ships, but Germany failed to break the blockade and kept most of its fleet in port afterward. Verdun, the Somme, the Isonzo, the Brusilov offensive. The names changed, but the logic did not. Victory now meant exhausting the enemy before your own country broke first. In 1917, that breaking point came closer. Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare, gambling that U-boats could starve Britain before American power reached Europe. Merchant ships were sunk without warning. Then the United States learned of the Zimmermann telegram, Germany's proposal that Mexico join a war against America. In April, the United States declared war on Germany. American troops would take time to arrive. But America brought something the exhausted Allies desperately needed: fresh manpower, industry, money, and hope. Russia moved in the opposite direction. Years of losses, food shortages, and anger brought revolution. Tsar Nicholas II abdicated. The new provisional government continued the war, but the army was disintegrating. In November, the Bolsheviks seized power with a promise of peace. Russia began withdrawing from the conflict, allowing Germany to shift huge numbers of troops west. Elsewhere, the slaughter continued. A failed French offensive triggered mutinies across parts of the army. At Passchendaele, British and Commonwealth troops fought through mud so deep that men, horses, and machines could barely move. Italy suffered a catastrophic defeat at Caporetto and retreated toward Venice. Yet Britain was learning how to fight a modern combined arms battle. At Cambrai, hundreds of tanks attacked together with infantry and artillery. The breakthrough did not last, but it offered a glimpse of the future. By the end of 1917, Russia was leaving the war. America was entering it. And Germany saw one final chance to win. In March 1918, Germany launched its spring offensive. Stormtroopers slipped past strong points and struck deep behind Allied lines. The British Fifth Army retreated. Paris came under threat. For the first time in years, the trenches appeared to be breaking open, but Germany could not turn its advance into victory. The troops were exhausted, supplies fell behind, and losses could not be replaced. The Allies appointed French General Ferdinand Foch to coordinate their armies. Fresh American divisions began arriving in growing numbers. In July, Germany's final attack was stopped at the Second Battle of the Marne. Then, the Allies struck back at Amiens. Tanks, aircraft, artillery, and infantry attacked together, advancing 7 miles in one day. German General Erich Ludendorff called August 8th the Black Day of the German Army. The 100 Days offensive had begun. German forces retreated. Bulgaria surrendered. British-led armies broke Ottoman power in the Middle East. Austria-Hungary collapsed after defeat in Italy. Across Germany, hunger, exhaustion, and mutiny turned into revolution. The Kaiser abdicated. On November 11, 1918, Germany signed an armistice in a railway carriage at Compiègne. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the guns finally fell silent. 4 years of war had killed roughly 10 million soldiers and millions of civilians. More than twice as many soldiers were wounded. 4 empires, German, Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian, were gone. The peace that followed redrew borders and created new countries. But the Treaty of Versailles imposed harsh terms on Germany, while many promises of self-determination remained unfulfilled. The war ended, yet bitterness, instability, and unresolved rivalries survived. People had called it the war to end all wars. Instead, it transformed warfare, destroyed an old world, and planted the seeds of an even greater catastrophe.